I know the audio and video gets pretty wonky. I personally blame OBS and Google Hangouts. Hello, I'm BMillzebub and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be going through the bite model to determine if the Catholic Church is a cult. And with me for assistance is the Bible Belt Atheist. However, I do have to mention that we are sponsored today, and this video is brought to you by the letter B for behavior control. But enough about that. How you doing, BBA?
Pretty good.
Promote dependence and obedience.
Promoting dependence and obedience is definitely a big thing within the Catholic Church, especially the Ten Commandments, as everyone more than likely knows at least a good few of them. And they're very, very well indoctrinated into children by way of sins, mortal sins, and venial sins as well. So it's definitely promotes dependence and obedience.
I mean, I guess this kind of depends on which church you go to, because the one I grew up in while I was growing up was fairly liberal, so we didn't have that same level of indoctrination. I'm guessing that you did.
Yeah.
But after I got a little older and joined my church's youth group, it definitely became that more conservative. You will be obedient. You will be dependent. I mean, we were encouraged to go to confession at least once a week. So there was that sort of bond of dependence they were building up with that. So, I think it's like Telltale said, it's more nuanced than that. So, yeah. But I'm gonna agree with this one anyway, because on some level the Catholic Church is going to promote obedience and dependence. You agree,
Definitely.
BBA?
Oh yeah, definitely. Whenever I was a Catholic, whenever I was little, my mother would always take me to church every week to go to confession. And she actually had bought me a little journal that I could write all of my sins in for that week and then go to confession and, kind of memorize the more important sins that I had written down in the booklet. And I still remember to this day, the very first sin that I wrote down in that booklet was saying the F word at school. So yeah.
Did your mom have ulterior motives for this notebook? Was she planning on reading it too?
No, she didn't plan on reading it. She just wanted me to have it so that I could write down my sins in the notebook or booklet.
Wow, that's some hardcore indoctrination from mommy dearest.
Yeah, really.
But let's move on to the next one. Modify behavior with rewards and punishments. I mean, this is definitely something that happens with the elderly and dying, because the threat of heaven and hell is more on their doorstep, I guess is a decent way to put it. But for someone my age or, BBA's age, the threat of heaven and hell isn't really, a good carrot or stick. So, I mean, in my experience, not really, no. I don't think the Catholic Church really does much to modify behavior. What about you, BBA?
Well, in the way of modifying behavior, I think so. Yeah. To one degree or another, because, it would for one thing, you have sins that you commit, and like I said in the last one or first one, whichever you want to say, because they're both correct. Um, the way I said it in the last one, you have the venial sins and you have the mortal sins. So, the mortal sins, are just like the Ten Commandments and some of the other major sins, like killing is part of the Ten Commandments. So yeah. Um, you have the mortal sins, which are kind of the obvious ones that even you and I wouldn't commit, like murder. And then you have the more trivial venial sins, and which are something as silly as like not praying for your parents or cussing or something like that. So in a way, yeah.
All right. I don't know. Maybe I'm focusing more on religions that are more obviously cult-like, such as the Jehovah's Witnesses, where they will shun their children if they're not behaving right, or
Hmm.
I don't know if you caught my interview with Not Jaw Witness a while back, but it used to be encouraged to, if your kid was crying while they were in the Kingdom Hall, to take them to the back or somewhere they couldn't be seen and beat the shit out of them until they were silent. Um,
Oh.
I guess I'm kind of comparing it to that, which is
Yeah.
probably not
Yeah,
the most
the
objective
way
way.
they do it in the Catholic Church, is, or well, yeah, Catholic Church. The whole crying thing. That's, if anybody's ever been in a Catholic church more recently, because I don't know how the older ones are, but the way the Catholic Church is set up, you have the main church area, and then in the back you have separate rooms called cry rooms, where mothers can take their babies or young children to go and sit in the mass, and the crying babies aren't disturbing the mass. So
Yeah, we.
yeah.
They primarily were confessionals, but yeah, they
Hmm.
on Sunday during Mass they definitely doubled as cry rooms. So yeah, that's um, yeah. I don't know. I did make a video talking about Catholic guilt, and
Hmm.
that was always one of the bigger weapons the church used, was making you feel guilty, guilt tripping you and shit like that. So I
Yeah.
guess to some degree that could absolutely count.
Yeah, definitely.
Dictate where and with whom you live.
All right, so dictating where and with whom you live is, in my experience, not really a big thing within the Catholic Church. uh the real, i I guess really the only big thing would be not really where, but with whom you can live. And that would be if you are in a relationship, and in, I'm just talking from my experience, that if you're in a relationship, it's not really, uh, how should I say, looked highly upon if you are living with someone that you are not married to. So in a way, that could be dictating with whom you can live with. But in the way of like where you can live, there's nothing restricting you to where you can live. I don't know. What do you have to say about it?
Um, I mean, yeah, I actually kind of have to agree with you. I can't think of anything in Catholic doctrine that tells you where you have to live. And there's no such command structure in the church that I ever came across like that. But, like you said, cohabitation outside of marriage is definitely frowned upon. And if you had like gay parents or one of your parents was an atheist, you were encouraged to find, a more Catholic home.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is kind of just in my friend's circle, but we all had this impressed on us by the Catholic Church. While I was dating in high school, when I was in between relationships, a buddy of mine set me up with another Catholic girl, and his reasoning was, you need a good Catholic girlfriend now, because I had just finished relationship with a Protestant woman, and yeah, that was not well cared for. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Restrict or control sexuality. All right, restrict and control sexuality. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, no. I mean, how often did I have it impressed on me in my church's youth group? Because we're all teenagers. Our bodies are flooded with hormones. We're all fucking horny. We all want to either jack off or fuck, one or the other, maybe both at the same time. you know, and we're being told by the church that no, 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 that's all bad unless you're married. But if you're married, you better be having sex to have kids. Because the mantra that we used when talking about sex was unitive and procreative. You have to be having sex with a member of the opposite sex, and the intent has to be children. Always had that impressed on us. So yeah, no, definitely they wanted to restrict and control our sexuality. What do you have, BBA?
Yeah, definitely. I really agree with, I mean, everything that you said. I mean, when I was in the Catholic Church, I was still, I think I was kind of a preteen, early teen. So I wasn't huge. I didn't have all the hormones going through me like you might have had or did have, I'm assuming. But yeah, so definitely like sex and jacking off was a big thing. And like the meme out there, where it has a picture of the woods and then a lightning bolt striking a random spot in the woods, and it says that God's watching you masturbate. Yeah, that was definitely, that would have been taken literally more than likely in a Catholic youth group. So, so it's definitely restrictive. And another thing too is in the way of sexuality is, or restricting sexuality is also very restrictive of sexual identity. Like if somebody's gay or trans or lesbian or anything else, then that was definitely frowned upon in the Catholic community.
Oh yeah, so, definitely. Anyone on the LGBT spectrum was an absolute no-no in the church. I mean, they'd spout that. You all know the meme. Hate the sin, love the sinner. That bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely big in the Catholic Church. So,
control clothing and hairstyle.
Control clothing and hairstyle is definitely, if you're what they call a lay person, not really. Clothing, hairstyle is not highly restricted unless you are more devout or a more devout Catholic. Then things like with secular imagery, or even, obviously satanic related imagery. Uh, Definitely not. But like I said, if you're more of a lax lay person in the Catholic Church, then this doesn't really apply to you. However, I do have a really, really good example, and I can relate to it personally. And that is if you are a religious person or living religious life, as in a priest, a monk, or a nun. Because if anybody doesn't know, my mother is actually planning on entering a cloistered monastery later this year. So definitely controls clothing in that sense, because she's actually, the last time she came back from the monastery that she was visiting at, uh, she came back wearing her robe that she was wearing in the monastery, and I told her that she looked like a schoolgirl from the 1860s. So definitely controls clothing
Yeah.
in that sense.
I mean, I think that really will only count for people who are living in, the religious life.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, for lay people, there's really no restriction at all. Um, but yeah, I would have to agree with that. For like people like us, there'd be no restriction. The only way they'd restrict your appearance in any way is if you were either a nun or a priest, or you
Mm-hmm.
know anywhere on that spectrum of actually being part of, like, actually part of the church. Whether it's bride of Christ for the nuns, or husband of the church for the priestly people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't really think that this one meets criteria.
Yeah, because I mean, I've got a good friend of mine who is still a Catholic, is a Catholic, and he's not very devout. He's, I guess, what you would call one of those twice a year Catholics, more than likely. I don't know. I haven't really brought up religion too much with him, but but yeah, he's very, very lax. He doesn't really, he pretty much wears whatever the hell he wants. So
Regulate what and how much you eat and drink. So, as far as regulating what we eat and drink, they really don't. The only kind of restriction they had was, don't be a glutton. Don't be a fat ass. Don't eat yourself into a coma, which meant every Thanksgiving and Christmas and Easter was a sinful event. Um, which is interesting because two of those three were also religious events. Um, and they encouraged people to not drink to excess as well. So, I mean, outside of don't be a glutton and don't be a drunk, I really don't have any experience with the Catholic Church restricting what you eat or drink. What do you have, BBA?
yeah, I don't really have much on that other than what you said. Just don't be a drunkard. Don't be uh, eating too much. Don't uh, Gluttony, of course, is one of the bigger sins in Catholicism. So yeah, definitely don't be eating too much, and don't be, drinking till you die. So yeah,
It's
pretty much the same thing as you.
I think it's really interesting that Catholics count gluttony as one of the more severe sins, because the seven deadly
Hmm.
sins, if I'm recalling correctly, are not mentioned in the Bible. Um,
No, I don't think they are either.
I'm pretty sure they're from, I want to say Dante's Inferno.
More than likely, yeah, more than likely.
But yeah, and all the same, that's really the only thing the Catholic Church says regarding food and drink.
Yeah, don't be a glutton, don't be a drunkard.
Deprive you of 7 to 9 hours of sleep.
All right, so depriving you of 7 to 9 hours of sleep is not really a issue within the Catholic Church. I mean, the only time that it would really affect you is maybe if you're out having a good time and late night on a Saturday night, and then you have to get up at 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and you've only had 5 or 6 hours of sleep. That would really be the only time. Only time that it would affect you, or like I said, just partying and staying up late, and then you have to get up early for church in the morning. That's the only time that it would really deprive you of sleep. But other than that, there's nothing really in the Catholic Church. So, for me at least, I've experienced.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's no structure. Maybe in the more conservative churches they might do that, but I mean your run of the mill Catholic Church, you're not gonna have that sleep deprivation to any degree. And
No.
I've been to a bunch of different Catholic churches. It's just not there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah. I mean, for anybody else that might be thinking, because somebody might think, well, what about monasteries and with monks and nuns? From talking to my mother about her schedule in the monastery, they do get 8 hours of sleep every night. They do get up really early. I think she said 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, but then they go to bed at I think lights out is about 10:30. So yeah, they get 8 hours, a decent night's sleep.
Exploit you financially. I'm gonna kind of say yes, like a half-hearted yes, because technically you are obligated to give 10% of your income to the church in tithing, but also have these little bundles of joy. It's a now and at the hour thing that I have been getting sent every month by the Pious Union of St. Joseph, despite having asked twice now to stop receiving this damn thing. And this is an envelope to send them money. And you see right here, place stamp here. They don't even pay for your postage. They make you pay postage to send them money. Cheap bastards. What do you got, BBA?
Yeah, definitely. It's a definite financial thing. I know back, I was probably about 10, 11 years old. So, I mean, not too long ago. 7, 8 years ago. I would be in church, and they come around the church with offertory baskets, and every once in a while I just kind of crunch the offertory envelope against the check inside just to see how much my mother had put on the check, and every single time I saw it, it was $100 every time.
Jesus.
And yeah, and it was definitely it's definitely a financial exploit. And actually, it's kind of funny that this one got brought up when it did, or that we're recording this when we are, because I just found out a couple days ago when my mother was kind of showing me how to file some of the papers for mail and stuff. And one of the papers that got brought up was a what was it? A offertory offertory tax report from her church, and I looked at it and I was like, "What the fuck? What the
Wait,
fuck is this?
did
You
a
these
Catholic church
seriously have
sent
this?
a
Do
Catholic
what?
church sent you a tax form?
Well, they sent her
Oh yeah.
a offertory tax form thingamabob. I can't remember what the official term was for it, but yeah, pretty much that. And I was like, what the fuck?
I mean, maybe I'm just being kind of hopeful with this, but maybe it was for her tax purposes because technically donations to a church are tax deductible. Hopefully that's it, but I
That
mean
could
we're
be.
yeah, I mean we're talking about the Catholic Church, which is kind of a money bags organization anyway. So while
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that's what it was, I have my doubts.
Granted, I'm right there with you. All right, so bonus clip. We just took a quick break in between this, so BMillzebub could go get some more coffee, and I could go take a bathroom break. But I just went downstairs to ask, and I asked my mother about what the tax form was about, and she was basically explaining to me about how the tax form that they sent her is actually so that because she doesn't pay income tax because she's disabled through the VA. But for someone who does have to pay income tax, then that's basically telling how much money that she herself donated to the church, and then she can put the that amount of money onto her. If she did pay income tax, then she could put that amount of money onto her income tax form as money that she donated to charity. So that's what that was about in a nutshell.
Restrict leisure time and activities.
That's not really a huge one in the Catholic Church. Again, like I said earlier, with the lay versus the devout, if you're more of a lay person, which if you don't know what a lay person is, that's somebody who's not in a lay person is someone who's not within the religious life, like a nun or a priest or a monk or something like that. But if you are more of a laid back lay person, you know, the restriction of time and activities is not really applicable to you. I mean, there's no restrictions on when you have to be at church at a certain time, unless you go to church every week, then, um, stuff like that. But if you're more devout, then, you're probably going to be at church a lot more. You might even go to church every day for mass, and like my mother does. And also, my mother goes to church every day to um, pray for an hour in the church because they will usually leave the church unlocked for people who want to come in and out for prayer time in front of the tabernacle, and which is the tabernacle, for anybody who's not a Catholic, is the big golden box where they hold all the Eucharist or the hosts in the church. So the church that my mother goes to, they will leave the church unlocked for, like I said, for anybody who wants to come in and out for prayer time, while the office, which is actually connected to the church, is open. So, yeah.
Yeah, for restricting leisure and activities, it's really not an issue, like you said, for lay people, and more of a thing for people in the religious life. Yeah. Yeah, I really don't have anything to add. You pretty much covered all of it, man.
Require you to seek permission for major decisions.
I mean, yeah, of course the church requires you to seek permission for major life decisions. Um, I mean, really, the only one that comes to mind is marriage. They're not going to make you, as far as I know, consult them to buy a house or something like that. But like as far as getting married, the way I understand it, the Catholic Church makes you actually talk to the priest who's going to be officiating, and go through marriage classes. Are you a good fit? Are you a good fit? Are you a good godly fit? So the Catholic Church is definitely going to make you go through a rigmarole with marriage at the very least. And I'm pretty sure if you're considering the priesthood, you're also going to be made to speak to any number of church officials to go through that process. I mean, I was considering becoming a priest at one point, and I talked to the pastor of our church about it, but I mean, I kind of stopped early in the process, so I don't know anything beyond that. What do you have for us, BBA?
Well, in the way of that, what was it again? Seek permissions. Yes, because again, I have a lot of experience with this because of my mother, who again is a Catholic, very devout, and this a lot ties in with her going into the monastery or looking into going into the monastery. So the big thing with seeking permission is not really seeking permission to go into the monastery, but it is the big thing with that is how do I really approach this? With her, she's had a lot of sicknesses over the years with her stomach. She's had a lot of stomach problems over the years, and she's trying to heal her stomach, and she's going back and forth between being good, being okay, and being not so okay. And the past few times that she's gone down to the monastery, she'd come back and her stomach was upsetting her again. So she would always assume that once she came back from the monastery and her stomach would be sick again, that this was some sort of demonic attack against her, and saying, that she shouldn't be going into the monastery, and that her sick stomach was an attack from the devil, showing her that she shouldn't be in the monastery. And it's like, oh my God.
No, it's probably something in the food there. Man, I don't know what can cause stomach illnesses, but it.
Well, because
an attack by the devil isn't on the list. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, well, she's also. It's not really the food there. It's because a little while ago or I'd say probably about a year ago, she got told that she should try going on a relatively strict diet to try and help her stomach problems, which, by the way, most of her stomach problems are acid level related. So either she's got too high acid levels or too low, and doctor said that she should try going on this really weirdly, somewhat relatively strict diet to try and help her acid levels get back to normal. And she actually, the doctors, I think, said to only go on it for about 6 months. And she went on it for well over that, probably about 10 or 11 months. And myself and her parents were all three of us were telling her she needs to come off that diet because it's good to diet. Dieting is healthy for people, but if you do it too much, then it's not good for you. And me personally, I related it to medication. Medication is good if you need it, but if you do it too much, then you can really, really harm your body. And it's the same way with everything. I mean, medication, alcohol, dieting, I mean, anything. Not proportion is the big thing. If you have too much of it, it's not good for you. Yeah. So I don't know. Sorry about that long rant, but
it's all good. Yeah, definitely not an attack by the devil.
Yeah, definitely not.
All right, so everyone in the audience might have noticed the little numbers in the top right of each intro card, and where we ended was a total of 6.5 out of 10, and that is a score for each individual thing. The final tally is going to be a little different for each one because each letter on the bite model has its own number of criteria. So we settled on 6.5 out of 10 for behavior control, and I'm going to say, considering that the Catholic Church is looking cult-ish. BBA, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's definitely not a low score, but it's not completely high. So again, yeah, I would agree with you. It's not completely cult yet, but it is cult-ish, like you said.
Now, bear in mind, anyone watching this who is a Catholic or supports the Catholic Church in some way, this is not the end of the bite model. It's only the first letter. Next week, we have information control, and we're going to see where it goes from there. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely looking forward to it. It'd probably help if I could talk a little bit better.
I have trouble with the English language too sometimes, but don't feel bad about it. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you, BBA, for coming on to the channel and helping me out with this, man.
Yeah, definitely. I would really thanks for having me, and I really enjoy doing this. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, definitely, man. You'll find relevant links for the Bible Belt Atheist in the description box below, as well as a link to the bite model so you can take a look at it yourself or, follow along with the videos, But definitely in the comments section, leave your thoughts on this, any criticism you have over our analysis. And, yeah, that's about all we got for you. So if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave it a like, subscribe to my channel and the Bible Belt Atheists if you haven't already. And don't forget to follow our Twitters, keep up with all of our comings and goings. I have a Discord. Do you, BBA?
No, I don't.
No?
I have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, so all the links to those are on my channel in my videos. I don't know if you are going to add those into yours, but if you want to add my Facebook and Instagram as well into your video, then hit me up and I'll send you the links. Yeah,
I'm definitely going to do that. But yeah, follow us on all social media, subscribe to our channels, and yeah, that'll do it for this one. I'll see you all in the next one.